we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. If I could ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll ask Ms. Conway to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shall we call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Singer Erdley? Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sames? Here. Mrs. Tackett? Here. Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Each of you, let's see, you have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting last week. May 14th,
Yep.
Motion, Mayor.
Wrong date.
June 4th.
June. Second.
Thank you. With a little help from my friends, we'll get this meeting underway.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Each of you should have received a copy of the latest check register in your packet, if you could indicate if you've received that. Thank you. First item on the agenda, public comments. We have Miss Lori Saunders.
Good evening. I think you actually mentioned at the last meeting how successful the Party on the Square was at Party on the Park.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So what we would like to do, and we've talked to Parks and Recreation, and they have agreed to let us move the Party on the Square to the park underneath the pavilion. But what we'd like to do is close Opera Alley to College. Now, we did reach out to Sergeant Bruner.
Water Street.
On Water Street, yes.
Leave the ends of Water Street open. If someone turns onto Water Street, they can either use College or Opera Alley.
Right.
That way crowds can
Yeah.
meander through the heart of Water Street.
Right.
You're exactly right, thank you. But I did speak to Sergeant Bruner about that, just to make sure that that would be appropriate and safe for the police and for the guests who were down there. Mayor Prather and I met with him and did a walkthrough on that. And then I also spoke to Chief Ward, there he is, Chief Ward, just to make sure that that was not going to cause any complications for the fire trucks either, since that is right on Opera Alley too. I spoke to the merchants last Thursday. They would love for us to go ahead and get approval for all of them, but we're going to do the next one in June for sure at the park if we get approval to close that area down. And then we're just going to make sure that that's the best place for it, because at Horsey 100 we had a lot of people who were not visitors, or who were visitors and not locals, who kept coming up to us and saying that. And we just want to make sure that we are getting the same responses from our locals. Sometimes you have a lot of people coming up to you, and I know the mayor did too, and it's kind of fades together as to whether they were local or guests. So we felt like we should try one more time in June to do it down at the park, which of course will be called Party in the Park, and then we'll go from there and meet with the merchants again. But they were not opposed to the idea at all, but we do want to make sure that we're doing the right thing if we're going to make the big switch for all of them. Of course, September 6th, the chili cook-off, that would not be moved. That would stay right in the heart of downtown before the cook-off. Yeah.
You need a motion, Mayor?
Just so you'll know, what Sergeant Bruner and Lori and I talked about too is we recognize that these are interim steps, because we still know we've got a lot of work to do on Water Street.
Right.
You just approved our hiring of the engineering firm to help us with traffic counts and parking analysis. We know changes are coming, but none of what Laurie and Sergeant Bruner suggested conflict with any of that ongoing work we're doing. We just think it's a better solution for today. Yes, sir.
Motion.
Thank you.
So that would be June 30th.
Thank you.
Anniversary.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions for Lori? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hey, while Lori's up here, I was going to do it under mayor comments, but Millie was there working with Friends for the
Chief
Park.
Ward staff too, and Public Works.
Public Works was there, Sherry was there, the Elkhorn float was an amazing home run. You ended up registering almost 300 people who did the float.
And the majority of the zip codes are out of Scott County,
Which is good.
which is very good, yeah.
They drifted by for hours, slowly drifted by, because there's almost no current in the creek
They
right
had fun.
now.
They did. Yeah.
But large groups were tethered together, and fish, a compliment for our local effort. Fish and Wildlife visited that morning to look at our operation and said they had not seen a better organized float event.
Good.
We had the fire department boat on the water. It was just beautifully organized. Fish and Wildlife said that they were going to leave us alone and they were going to go back to Frankfurt where there was a more rowdy bunch on the river where they were needed. So, but it was a compliment to our crew.
That's awesome.
Well, I heard about you and a pink flamingo having a party together.
They wrestled. They had a wrestling match, and unfortunately, the mayor lost.
I heard about it too.
The
and I want
flamingo won
pictures.
that one.
I want
Don't
pictures.
you never touch the birds? They're alone.
I was no match for the pink flamingo.
But we had a good time, and if you all didn't realize this, that is actually being filmed for the downstream
Yeah.
Kentucky episodes for Liquid Kentucky. So we did a lot of filming on Friday where the mayor and the judge were movie stars there and talked about fishing on the bank and the protection and conserving our water sources. And then Saturday we continue to film on the creek. So once we get that edited and completed, the time frame is looking like it'll air on KET in October. So we plan to do a local premiere so that everyone can come out and see it first. We're very excited
Are we gonna get
about
to see
it.
the flamingo?
I don't know.
Gonna be edited.
I don't think that made their.
You'd be surprised. I bet there were some pictures taken. See?
Oh, okay.
See?
I was gonna say, I was in the water holding the flamingo trying to help. So I don't have pictures of it, but if somebody's got film of it, they got they'll hear a lot of laughing,
So
so.
the takeaway is that this was such a success that we'll probably have a canoe and kayak event this fall.
Oh, good.
And then there will be a 2.0 of this next year.
For sure.
good.
And everybody should come out and enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. And just a reminder, Friday, what's coming up is G-Town After Dark, after hours. So all of our shops have some great sales going on and some giveaways from 5 to 7. So please pop out, participate, go downtown and enjoy some good fun with your girlfriends or your hubby. It'll be a good time.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks.
Laurie is the only person who had signed up for public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience? Okay, if not, we'll go right to mayor's comments. And I'm delighted tonight that we have with us Mr. Jim Poe. When we discussed at the last council meeting the remarkable history of VFW, or American Legion Post, 24, having held a continuous pilgrimage, Memorial Day pilgrimage for 100 years. We think the only place in America that's ever done that. Council responded by asking us to bring a resolution in honor of that. We ended up picking the worst possible night for Mr. Poe. I think they've got they've got a meeting and some real guests at their place tonight, but we want to do this honor, and then if you take our best wishes back with you when you go. Jim, would you like to make some comments to the council and acknowledge the folks that worked on it so hard?
Well, there's a lot of things I'd like to say.
Well, you go right ahead.
But I won't. Yeah, this is a big night for the Legion because it's the election of their officers, and we've got some
hierarchy that has drifted down from Washington and the state, and nobody wants to let them go off on their own. So I got chosen to do this, I guess, what you'd say.
Well, we appreciate you coming down.
All right. We really appreciate, had comments to make, but hell, I'll talk off the top of my head. Okay. We really appreciate the support that we're getting from the city and Judge Lusby and you, Tom, of course. You and I go back a long way. His daddy was one of my best friends. He supported me when I came to Scott County and opened up the old airport, and we developed it into something that has become quite a place out there. But anyway, short and sweet. This centennial that we did on the pilgrimages to all the cemeteries has been going on for years, and it had not been recognized like it should have been. I can't remember how many names we read off that had been deceased in foreign countries and wars and so on. Deb can tell you. She's got the numbers in her head. She helped put that on also. But we're going to continue to do it, and you've got a bunch of great guys out there in that Legion. Bunch of them. They're kind of quiet behind the scenes, but they support the county as much as I do. I'm done.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jim. And Deb, I know how hard you worked on the event this year, and your name's not on this proclamation, but it probably should be. I'll let the clerk read this resolution. The other thing we learned more history, is that through the years there have been other organizations that have worked with Post 24 at various times, and we've honored all three in these proclamations, Jim, and we have a copy of the proclamation for you to take back to each of those other organizations that have been involved as well.
A resolution of the City of Georgetown recognizing American Legion Post 24 for its 100th consecutive Memorial Day pilgrimage. Whereas Scott County's American Legion Post 24 has for the past 100 years conducted a Memorial Day pilgrimage to honor our deceased veterans. And whereas Post 24 travels to 7 cemeteries in the Scott County area, at each of which our veterans are remembered through verse, patriotic music, reading of the names of each veteran buried in the cemetery, a 21-gun salute, and the playing of taps. And whereas American Legion Post 24 is the only chapter to have conducted this river pilgrimage for 100 consecutive years. And whereas over the years, veterans of Foreign Wars Post 7054 and the 100th Division of the Army Reserves in Georgetown have joined Post 24 in leading this truly unique pilgrimage. And now there be it resolved by the City of Georgetown that Georgetown City Council does hereby recognize American Legion Post 24, Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 7054, and the 100th Division of the Army Reserves for so fervently honoring our veterans through an annual Memorial Day pilgrimage. This resolution was approved by the vote of the City Council, City of Georgetown, on the 11th day of June 2018.
Marvin, I think you called for this resolution, didn't you? Would you like to?
I'd be
Pardon?
proud to.
Karen called
Karen.
for it.
So I'll make the motion.
Make
I'll
the
be
motion.
proud to second.
Thank you. I knew somebody called for it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Jim, come forward. We're off. Present this. Carry that back. All right. Here are the two, Jim. Here are the two for your sister organizations. With our regards.
Thank you.
I got a father-in-law up to Georgetown, or press lines, and then I got my wife's grandfather and so forth. But we've been several years in a row, especially, you know, wife says go, we go. But it brings you to tears when you sit there and hear those taps. It's tough, but it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you all for recognizing and calling for it.
Absolutely.
We have something almost equally as cool tonight that we rarely get to do. By the way, I kind of started the meeting without acknowledging that we have some special scout guests in the audience. Delighted to have them observing local government at work, and I hope there's a merit badge or two earned tonight. I think that would be a great thing. 2 merit badges tonight. But anytime you'd like to come back to a city council meeting, this is People's Chambers, and we'd be delighted to have you. Yes, thank you all. The other thing that we get to do tonight, which is a lot of fun, is we have 2 firefighters who are being promoted tonight, and the fire department has a promotional pinning ceremony with the families and a family member doing that pinning. So, Chief, I'll give you the podium.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With some recent retirements that we've had the past few months, led to needing to promote some individuals to step up to take those positions. And the promotional process we have, like I'm sure a lot of you know, it's a big, long-standing process, but it's a very in-depth, detailed promotional process in order to pick the next individuals to be able to step into those leadership positions. But tonight, I bring before you, we've got firefighter Kevin Cummins. He's a 14-year veteran with the fire department. He's being promoted to from a firefighter to a captain position, and that's our first line supervisor level. And then Greg Jewett was a captain. He's being promoted from a captain to a battalion chief position. He'll take over the shift commander position of 1st Platoon. But we just wanted you all to join us in this celebration, and congratulations for these 2 individuals. They worked hard throughout their career, and I forgot to mention Battalion Chief Jewett. He's a 19-year veteran of the department, so they've worked very hard in what they've done, and they've earned this tonight, what they've got. But if we'll bring Kevin, you want to come first? And I think he wants his wife to pin him.
Just so you'll know, we did joke out in the hallway about blood being drawn.
This is a free shot. Yeah, right. Kevin looked at it.
Yeah, he's worried. Now you got her all nervous. Pictures.
Kevin, enough of them's going to get your good side, okay?
Yeah, congratulations. Battalion Chief Jewett will have his mom pin him tonight.
Just as Battalion Chief Jewett is getting pinned, I just wanted to say how proud I am. A picture I saw of this young man being fortunate enough to baptize his own son
That's great.
this
Great.
last Sunday.
It's wonderful.
Congratulations to you.
She knows how to do it. Put her hand underneath.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
see y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we lose our chambers. Well, that's good when you go within your department and move them up. That's how it should be.
Yes, So, take a sip and look. Now that some of the things that involved our guest are done, I want to get to some other comments. This was very fun.
Yep.
City'd like to say congratulations for the Lady Cardinals and their state tournament win.
Yes, it's good.
Girls are tough.
We've talked about a couple of things already, but I did want to mention that some of you all may be getting some complaints from constituents from contractors working for AT&T. We've been having a bunch of them down here at City Hall. And we're doing our best to manage them. We've made complaints to AT&T, everything from being in people's yards when we're not sure they're supposed to, in some cases laying fiber right along a water line, some other things that we're not completely satisfied with. This is not AT&T, but it is their contractors. And we've had significant trouble with them. Some of these same contractors are the ones that Columbia Gas has had so much trouble with by when they bore under driveways taking out gas lines, and we've had a rash of those incidents, and they're dangerous. So continuing to try and work with AT&T to get better behavior from their contractors. We did last week issue a notice to proceed to the contractor on the Lanes Run Business Park. So that clock has started ticking now. I think 243 days sounds right.
Sounds right, yeah.
It's late March. We should be substantial completion on that. Also, for any of you that might not have been at the chamber luncheon today, the speaker was the board chair of Bluegrass Community Action Agency. We contract with them to run the Senior Citizen Center, and they do other programs to help folks in the community. They're also the ones responsible for the G-Trans system. And they brought the gentleman who is the director of that program, and he gave it some updated numbers. And it's real encouraging, and they're very encouraged by it. Month one, I think it was 30 riders. Just month two, 100 riders. The last month was over 300 riders.
Wow.
It's kind of caught a little bit now, and they expect last month's to be significantly higher yet. They say at this point, we have a dual route system, what they call a deviated dual route. So we have two buses going. They've got 3 or 4 of those going in Kentucky, and we are already the busiest. So it is being successful. It is being ridden. They've made their application for another grant, merely to what we talked about earlier, being able to go in other directions.
A little further.
They're really focused right now on trying to get service out to the social services office out at the business park.
Okay.
That's just a part of the safety net that they need to be able to pick up. But they're aware of the other needs, like out West Main. In the same vein as that, the National Transportation Trade Association that Toyota Motor, the big company, hired to look at public transportation in all the communities where they have a significant presence. They've issued a preliminary report on their findings, and then they're going to have a follow-up with us on, I think, August 1st. It's a public meeting at the library. So we'll get you information about that as well. But very pleasantly surprised with the way G-Tran has now shifted gears a little bit.
It's great.
That's all the mayor's comments I had. Item 7 on the agenda, Sherry. Approval of a bid from Swim Pro. You're gonna have to tell us what a Chemtrol PC 2100 controller is.
I will. It is to help us moderate the chemicals and our pHs and all of our chemicals and temperature and everything on our pools. We have 2 at the pavilion, and we also have 2 at Cephaletta Family Aquatic Center. So each body of water has their own. The ones that we currently have been with us since the inception. They've way lasted their usual lifespan, so we are ready to replace those. We had 3 bids come in. This is in the capital budget. And the bid that the board accepted and has recommended is from SwimPro, and it came in at $21,800. So it was by far the lowest. So I would request that you would approve that bid for us so that we can proceed in installing those new chemical controllers at both locations.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded in stereo.
Okay. Works.
If no questions for stereo, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
I think on the back, there was supposed to be another one, open air. Was there one?
Yes.
It's for the outdoor movie theater too. I had sent that all together. So I had requested to have that approved tonight as well. Can we do that?
I think
Just forgot to turn it over, it looks like.
Is it in your capital budget?
It is in capital budget as well, yes.
And what is that?
It is the outdoor movie screen so that we can start showing our own movies and things in our parks. And we're going to hopefully be able to take that from park to park and show it in different neighborhoods and things of that nature, and have all kinds of fun movies and things that we can do to help increase our usage of our outdoor parks. So,
Motion, Mayor. I'll
Thank you.
second.
second. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Before you leave,
Yes.
I got a text from a lady about the mission at the park, at the pool, about they didn't get to swim because of, you probably talked to the people I'm talking about,
About the weather and,
weather and so forth.
yes.
Do we have anything that, let's just say that you sold a ticket to a couple and 3 or 4 of their kids, and they get in and you shut the pool down. They lose everything then?
They do, and we do have that policy posted. It's on our website. Since it is an outdoor pool, we have it posted, no rain checks. Basically, it's pay at your own and enter at your own risk. That is a board policy that we have. On days like this, we always encourage people to think about it before you enter, because we do not give refunds and we do not give rain checks. Our capacity out there can get up to 1,200 people a day, and there's a lot of days we have 400 or 500 people and it starts to rain, and there's just no way that, the board has decided that it's a no, enter at your own risk kind of situation.
Well, I told her I would bring it up tonight, and I did, so.
Okay. So, and if that's a discussion you would like me to have with the board
I
again?
would appreciate if you would.
Absolutely,
Please.
absolutely.
One thing that was, because Marvin and I both got the same, information. One thing is that I'm understanding through the conversation, which it could be wrong, is that it was already closed and they were still allowed to come in. Do you ever tell people that the pool's been closed?
We do say the pool is currently closed. It may open, it may not open back up, because we haven't made that decision for final closure.
Okay.
But once again, it's enter at your own risk. So if you want to make that decision to come in, you may. But we're telling, we'll say we may open back up, we may not.
Okay.
So, but we encourage them to do that at their own risk, knowing that there's no refunds or rain checks if you do that.
Okay.
And that is posted several times throughout the entryways before you even get through the gates. There's a sign there that's enclosed, and it's there. So it's on the website. I think it's like the 3rd rule on the website if you look at the Cephaletta's page. So it is posted in numerous places too.
It's very well posted. I go, I take my grandkids.
So.
I've sat underneath the pavilion many times, waiting for it to quit raining.
But when you get a, text from a constituent, you need to bring it before and ask, and that's what we did, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand completely. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Okay. Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, item 8 on the agenda under city attorney is a municipal order approving bids for mowing. Normally very straightforward, and the acceptance of the bid is straightforward. These were the bids we received. The folks who responded to these bids are people who work their day job at our Public Works Department. That does not make it illegal, but it does, in my opinion, require that I tell you about it. So it was a bid process. They responded appropriately. I'm recommending that we accept the bid, but I wanted to do it with disclosure to you that this is their side job.
Yeah, and these are the only two received, period.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the pricing seems reasonable from my perspective, Mayor.
Yeah.
Very.
And we frankly, we have mowing that needs doing
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion for approval if needed.
Thank you. Motion's been made,
I'll
seconded.
second it.
No, it's
If
reasonable.
there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item B on your agenda is a very quick follow-up on what I discussed with you all at the last meeting about our seeking a build grant. We described the type of application that we wanted to put together with Bell Engineering. We've seen some of their prior work. In fact, we just got through evaluating one of their requests for qualifications. And they have given us this price of $18,000. I do not have a vote of the fiscal court yet, but I have every expectation that if we seek the build grant of this magnitude, that the county would be our partner in that. Again, this would be considerations, help us put together this grant, this build grant for improvements to Old Oxford Pike, Lexus Way, and perhaps as a phase 3, if we get deeply into this project, some improvements to Connector Road. So this will be, as we said, a pretty substantial grant in the probably $5 to $7 million range.
Make a motion for approval.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're really excited about this. Again, our submission deadline is kind of late July, so we'll keep you informed as we get that together.
We have to work fast.
Yeah.
You'll be here before you know it.
We're going to kind of clear the decks and make that a priority. Under city engineer, two real straightforward issues, so I did not ask Eddie Hightower to come to the meeting tonight. I kidded with him about in his short tenure as city engineer, he's already brought the council more change orders than the council likes to see. But the first is a municipal order approving a change order for the Derby Estates project. When we bid that project and we went back and looked at the bid documents, we anticipated fence relocation would have to be done as an addition to the project. It was in the wording of the bid. So this is less of a change order, in my opinion, than the next portion of
Yeah.
that, but that is our recommendation.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You'll also find a municipal order approving Sutton Place street dedication. As we've indicated, we're on a little bit of a mission to get a bunch of streets properly dedicated that just have been laying there for a long time. And planning and zoning is helping with this process. So over the next several meetings, we're going to have a series of these to bring to you. In this case, you have the letter from planning and zoning indicating that they've been inspected and they meet our standards.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, making great progress. For you scouts to know, we kind of have a staff meeting every afternoon to get me, before the council meeting, to get me ready for the meeting. just talk through the agenda and what we should expect. At the end of that meeting, we always bet on how long the meeting's gonna run and what the over-under is.
How you doing so far?
Well, we're making really good progress right now.
Andrew, you're losing again, right?
I don't know.
He's sitting on his hand right now.
We're about to talk about the budget.
Oh, goodness.
Council comments.
That's right. You all do have fun. Under the finance portion of our agenda, we have second reading of the budget ordinance. Sponsors Ms. Tackett and Mr. Lesby.
An ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky adopting the annual budget for the fiscal period July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. Summary. Section 1. Adopts by incorporated exhibit the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Governmental funds. Prior year revenues, $9,560,754. Revenues. Municipal taxation, $2,270,000. Licenses and permits, $21,747,500. Fines and forfeitures, $94,000. Intergovernmental revenues, $14,638,355. Charge for services, $193,082. Other revenue, $31,700. Other financing sources and transfers, $9,424,445. Total city revenues, $48,399,082. Expenditures. General government, $1,520,600. City council, $194,237. City clerk, $266,313. Police, $6,793,653. Public Works, $2,408,817. Fire, $5,599,734. Code enforcement, $226,311. Building inspection, $501,636. Dispatch telecommunications, $1,680,277. Utilities, $708,400. Community services interlocal, $5,768,328. Capital outlay, $20,925,848. Debt service, $1,046,965. Transfer to other funds, $10,318,1717. Total city expenditures, $57,959,836. Proprietary funds. Prior year revenues, $274,579. Revenues, sanitation, $2,050,000. Recycling, $33,000. Cemetery, $210,000. Intergovernmental revenue, $417,912. Other revenues, $6,000. Other financing sources transfers, $894,272. Total proprietary revenues, $3,611,184. Expenditures, sanitation, $2,022,283. Recycling, $502,092. Stormwater, $719,156. Landfill, $76,000. Cemetery, $566,232. Total proprietary expenditures, $3,885,763. Section 2. Authorizes the mayor, except as provided in the Georgetown Purchasing Policy adopted in Municipal Order 11028, to enter into any contracts of agreements necessary to fulfill the operation of city government within the allocations listed in this ordinance. Section 3. Provides that if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 4 provides that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the Georgetown City Clerk's Office, 100 Course Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Publicly introduced and read the first time June 4th, 2018. Publicly read the second time June 11th, 2018.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded by the Finance Committee. Thank you. be glad to answer any questions, and Stacy is here to help answer those, should there be any.
You've got the total revenues of 48 million and total expenses 57 on this sheet, on the summary sheet. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the capital outlay is the big number in that list. And am I correct? Not all that will get done this year in the budget.
We'll see. I know that currently the radio system, they're trying to do 12 months. So we'll see. I don't know what the timeline is on Lanes Run Business Park.
It'll be next,
Theoretically be done
Yeah.
within that fiscal year.
We should get that one done this year. The radio project very likely will spill over into two.
Okay.
We had given the county the option of, on their radio investment, if they needed to go ahead and prepay that, since it's our administrative agreement, if that would help the judge avoid that 65% ratio problem that he'll have in the last 6 months of his term. But ours, as we've indicated, each of our big capital outlays will be made with cash.
Okay. And is that where you'll get the difference between the 57 and the 48 is take it out of?
The first number should say prior year revenues, I think, and that if you add the prior year revenue and the current year revenue,
That's it.
you should get to the 57.
Okay.
960.
Yeah.
But again, just to emphasize, the council has put themselves in a position to pay this much cash, and you're to be applauded for that. The other thing that we do not have in this prior year revenue is the 1.5 million that we've taken each of the last 3 years for operating. So we have weaned ourselves off that, and all of this is going directly from cash into capital projects.
do we have the, anything of the road out there that we were discussing?
We have gotten an official confirmation. There hasn't been a press release yet, but there's been an official confirmation from the Transportation Cabinet that we received the $500,000 grant from the governor's discretionary fund, which will help us toward the $7.5 million cost of the Lanes Run Business Park. So the total cost of that will now be $7 million, shared by the city and the county.
What about by the school?
By the school, that's the one I was talking about, the school road.
The school road, we do not have
Haven't
an
done
answer
nothing.
on
We
yet.
just had to play it when we get ready.
Well, we do know that we're gonna take our best shot with the build grant elsewhere.
Right.
But you approved a contract at our last meeting for an engineering study that we need to make our next decisions about East Main Street Extended, and we don't have that back
Okay,
yet.
just curious, because you discussed that first reading, we were kind of discussing
That's right.
about that.
That's right.
And I didn't see it in here. and I was
It's
curious.
not in here, and I'm acknowledging this to council and the public, that improvements to East Main Street Extended are going to have to be done, and we have not yet budgeted for them.
We need to reach out then.
And we're continuing to work on that, but as we discussed at the last meeting, until we get the engineering study back,
We don't
we
know.
don't know exactly
Right.
what we're talking about.
Right. Well, good.
Mayor, can I mention something
sir.
real quick? It seems like every year for the past 20-some years, I've said that, budgets are a challenging process. And quite honestly, you all have made it much easier than it's been in years past. And I know Karen, she dealt with them in probably some of the most excruciating times that Georgetown has ever experienced. But there are things in here that not all of us will agree with. And I always say that, I try to look at it more in a broad-based concept. And there's things that will come back to us throughout this, the next 12 months that we'll be able to vote on. Even though they're in here, we might not technically like them today. I support this budget, obviously, and all the efforts that went into it. And then we can always look at these line items throughout the year when they come back to us.
You're right, most of them will come back.
They will. And the other thing that I want to mention, with Mike Scoggin being in attendance tonight, is he had an article in the paper this week about the emergency service and the response to the explosion that took place And we've got literally $15 million allocated towards emergency services when you include dispatch in with this budget. That's enormous.
Yep.
And I think the approach and the route that it seems like we have taken, and I support, is the fact that we've chosen to upgrade everything from the level of pay, the benefits, the facilities, the equipment, obviously the new police department. I mean, and trying to operate lean is probably the thing that I think we have to do in order to be able to afford the niceties that this community has,
Yep.
and the training that our emergency service
Yep.
folks take or have. So anyway, Mayor, thanks to you and Stacy, and I know Andrew, he was helpful early in the year with some of the forecasting that you all did, and anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any questions for Stacy? If not, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Let's clap for that one, guys. Good job. Good job.
For our scouts in the audience, the budget that we pass once a year starts, our budget year starts in July, ends at the end of June. That budget is the single most important policy document that we pass all year. A lot of other stuff we do stems from the decision that the council just made, so.
Stand without a budget.
Thank you. Interestingly enough, immediately following the adoption of next year's budget, we have first reading of a budget amendment for this year's budget. As Stacy and I promised you that we would come back with some things to neaten up at the end of this year's budget, so we finish the year where we want to.
So, I was just going to touch through a couple of the highlights for
Yeah,
this.
please do.
As the mayor said, this is kind of a cleanup at the end of the year to make sure that anything that was approved from the last budget amendment to now has been taken care of, as well as any line items that maybe had some unanticipated cost. So for the general fund, as mentioned, we've covered the contract that you just approved with Bell Engineering a couple of items ago to make sure that was covered. We're cleaning up several line items in the general fund as far as telephones, building inspection. The reason that says 0 is because I'm moving more than 10,000 from one account to another, which I have to have council's approval from, but the net is 0. It's all staying within the building inspection department. It is on the detailed Exhibit A. You can see those changes. The fire department, they had a lot of retirees this year. Every time somebody, not every time, but when people retire, we often get sick leave invoices from the retirement system. We have to pay the retirement in on those sick leave. And since they've had several retirements, that was not anticipated in their budget. So we are adjusting for that. Dispatch needed a little extra in overtime. The medical and dental insurance at Public Works, often that happens because one employee leaves that perhaps had a lower plan. Another employee comes on that maybe had a family plan. That wasn't budgeted. We budget for what we know at the time. A couple other small things with ambulance utilities. The two CMRS lines, that's our revenue that we get from the state, from the CMRS board for dispatch. That revenue is up this year, and we give half of that to the county, so I'm raising the expense line item where we're writing the check to the county for their half. And you see the corresponding line item where the revenue increases as well. And then we'll talk a little more, but we're transferring $175,000 additional to the business park fund, but we're decreasing our transfers to the capital projects fund by $528,000. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So as you can see, after amendment number 1, we anticipated using around $2.376 million of prior year revenues in this budget. After this amendment, our anticipation was $2,149,000. And again, that's the budgeted numbers. Our revenues could come in a little higher. Some of our expenses could come in a little lower. So hopefully we'll do even better than that. The business park fund, I was just notified by Andrew that we need to pay our sewer privilege fee for our business park project this month. we had anticipated this in next year's budget, but it's going to be pulled into this year's budget. So that'll be a little less on next year, a little money freed up then, with the city and county splitting half of that for a total of $175,000 each. The Environmental Services Fund, that's just a cleanup on that item. That's an estimate on our tipping fees to the landfill, but if we take more garbage than anticipated, then that ends up being a little higher. The landfill fund, again, we estimate the utility for the leachate pumping. We had a very wet spring.
Oh, boy.
So the more it rains, the higher those utility bills are. So we had to increase that budget a little bit, but we offset it with some other line items that we hadn't used this year and decreased. So that's a net of 0. In the capital projects fund, you will see you approved change order number 5 to the Lemons Mill project a couple of months ago. So this is accounting for that in the budget. And then we had some subcontracted materials that we paid to Hamilton Hinkle outside of the main contract. And those had not been picked up on the original MO, so I wanted to make sure those were in there. And then I've removed some of the TAP grant match, CMAC grant match, and our planned contribution towards the possible South Sewer extension, because all of those projects, with the exception of a little bit of design on Cardinal Drive, have all gotten moved to next year's budget. So overall, for the capital projects fund, we're decreasing our transfer by $528,000, but again, the majority of that is going to be in next year's budget. That's it.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are decreased by $227,025.48. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $81,875. General government expenses are increased by $38,500. Fire expenses are increased by $100,000. Dispatch expenses are increased by $10,000. Public works expenses are increased by $14,300. Interlocal expenses are increased by $45,937.50. Transfers out are decreased by $353,887.98. Business Park Fund. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $175,000. Transfers in are increased by $175,000. Expenses are increased by $350,000. Environmental Services Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $11,400. Sanitation expenses are increased by $11,400. Landfill Fund. Transfer funds between line item expenditures resulting in no change to total expenditures. Capital Project Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $66,525.95. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $52,912.03. Transfers in are decreased by $528,887.98. Capital expenses are decreased by $409,450. All ordinances or parts of this ordinance in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Publicly introduced and read for the first time June 11th, 2018.
Thank you. That will constitute first reading. So we'll have second reading and vote at our next regular scheduled meeting. Let's see, since you're at the podium, Stacy, we also have under finance a municipal order approving the renewal of our liability property and workers' compensation insurance. And they're pretty healthy numbers.
They are.
Internally, we've had some discussions about the potential of a loss control officer for city operations. KLC has talked to us about potentially a grant that would underwrite part of a safety officer's salary for 3 years. We're looking at whether or not that might make sense for us. When you look at these premiums,
It might save you some money.
Where do we seem to be having the biggest problems? In what department, or is there one versus another or anything like that?
I can't speak to workers' comp. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Andrew would know about any liability lawsuits that may or may not have taken place. We obviously have the occasional vehicle accident. We had a rather large claim in the last year or so where we had some hail damage on some roofs, and we spent about $100,000 of insurance money fixing several roofs in the city. We had the old Suffaletta Pool building not that long ago. That was a rather large claim.
Workers' comp, Karen, it's all over the board, but it's a lot of back injuries. You know, we've spent a bunch of money on equipment to help folks with back injuries. Our ambulances are all equipped with the power cots, and we're getting better equipment for public works. The one-arm trucks don't require as much lifting for them.
Still a lot of it in public works, though. It's just a manual job.
It's a manual
That's a tough job,
It's a
yeah.
heavy job out in the elements, and we're gonna get some people hurt sometimes.
Slips and falls and things like that, too.
Can you tell us where this went, where it was, and obviously what is being proposed, what the increase is?
I'd have to look at it to be sure. I do know the liability and property policy off the top of my head. I know it was over 400. It may have been 440. It's a healthy increase. It's a very healthy increase over what it was last year. I'm sorry.
What options do we have? I mean, I know historically they've given us the best pricing, but are there bidding
Well, we
opportunities?
talked about, we could ask our insurance agents to shop and see if that would help.
There are few options, David, but that is the ultimate option. We've been with Kentucky League of Cities for several years now. Stacy and I had a conversation earlier today that it may be time, the next time this comes up, that we ask our agents of record to bid the market on our behalf.
Yep.
KLC is normally the low-cost provider, but we need to keep that for certain.
And Mayor, I think over the years, they've saved us a lot of money, you know, when we've made some of those changes.
And they've covered a lot of things that weren't
That wasn't,
distinctly under the
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
They've been very generous on those things. But with workers' comp premiums of $524,000 and property and casualty premiums of $528,000, those are big numbers.
Yeah.
We're finally over, we're $1,050,000 just for these insurance premiums.
We went to Kentucky League when I was mayor, is when we first went to Kentucky League, and it was substantial savings that year, but it has gone up. But of course, things happen.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's
our
just
mod
what goes.
factors are not the best right now.
So,
In fact, our mod factor, you know, what they take, the standard rate, and then they apply our experience as a unique customer, and
the bad thing about
we've
workers,
got like a 1.2. I think we're costing about 20% more than we pay in premium.
well, I think the bad thing about workers' comp, if I understand it, there's not too many options to go for workers' comp. Maybe
I've heard of maybe one other.
Yeah, that's it. You're kind of locked into that, and that's all you can do, so.
Would it be possible to table this till the next meeting and just kind of think about it over the next couple of weeks, or is there a timeline that we need to meet?
We've got to have pilot coverage in place by July 1st.
I don't know whether you could
I don't
find
know
anything in 2 weeks.
I don't know that we can do a true bid situation in that long, David. What we can do is we can call in our agents of record for each of these policy and begin those conversations. And maybe first report back to the Finance Committee on what that looks like, and then the full council.
Yeah, because we do our renewal surveys. We turn them in March, mid-March, but it's the 1st of June often before we're hearing exactly what the premium's going to be.
The one thing positive with Kentucky League, with the mayor was indicating that, which happened with me, was they do cover, even though their policies say X, Y, and Z, when you get into the middle ground, or the ground that you're wondering, a lot of times they'll go on and pick it up for
Err on
you,
your side.
and they'll support the city, so they do that. So that's worth a lot, but it's always a good idea to look at your insurance and see what else is out there.
What about the deductibles, playing with the deductibles? Obviously, we all do that a little bit. Is that something that we should ask them about? I mean, I think we should ask them. I wonder if that is something we've asked them. I don't mind proceeding, Mayor, I guess, if that's the general consensus, but I'd like to dig into it a little bit more.
I'd be glad to set up a finance committee, and if you don't want to get a quorum, finance committee, and if somebody else wanted to sit in with our agents of record to, just to talk about all these issues. We dissect health insurance with such precision that this seems vague relative to what we get for health insurance, where we're self-insured.
Mary, for next year, because I know you're on a time crunch, but for next year, if we could maybe take a look at how the insurance quotes come into us earlier than at the end. When do you get them for the budget, for what you use in a budget, or did you just get these now?
We had estimates for the budget. What I do for workers' comp is I take every employee and their salary multiplied by the factor for their position type. Depending on the type of position, obviously fire, police, sanitation have much higher factors than office workers. So what I do is I multiply their salary times that factor, and I budget that fully. In the past, around May, we've been able to call our workers' comp agent, and typically I reduce that down to about 80% of whatever that calculation is. This year I was told, don't reduce it.
Okay.
And I didn't, and it's pretty close.
What I was thinking, maybe the insurance next year, maybe it could be brought to us a little sooner to take a look at, instead of waiting until.
Because it was June before. It may have even just been last week. It was last week.
That you're able to get it.
Workers' comp came in last week.
Okay.
So,
earlier next year.
yeah.
I think so.
In fact, it makes sense to start the conversation now.
Yeah.
Is basically what we're doing, to anticipate next year.
Yeah, because we start the process again mid-March. We turn in our renewal survey to KLC. We would need to start the process much earlier to start bidding.
Fortunately, our initial drafts had enough in there for what the bid ended up coming in, and that's what we're dealing with tonight, are the specifics. So, I almost think we needed to.
You need a motion or
You
not?
want the resolution read, or do
I
you?
think she just,
No, make a motion, Mayor.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Boy, that was about lackluster.
You tell we weren't thrilled that we had to do it.
Folks weren't particularly thrilled with that, but we will start that process.
I would.
I'll stay up here for the next one in case anybody has questions, just because I was involved with it too, so.
I think that's all for you.
No.
No?
Budget amendment. Oh, nope. Did we already do that?
We did the budget.
Personnel ordinance.
Personnel ordinance, I'm
Just
sorry.
that for 11 is what she's saying.
Oh, would you like to stay there for 11?
I can. I was involved with it since a lot of it was budget related, but.
Actually, item 11, first reading of an amendment to our personnel ordinance is real straightforward. It changes only a couple of things. It adds 4 people in public works that we had talked about adding in the budget, and it then adds a supervisor. So it's a total of 5 additional employees in public works. The other thing it does is takes 2 other,
One dispatcher.
1 dispatcher and 2 public works.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Within the department, there are 2 other supervisors that are a grade level 6. And this ordinance takes them to a grade level 8, simply for consistency with other supervisors in that department. It does not change their salary, does not change their job description. It just gives some consistency within the department.
And then it changes the one dispatcher position to a shift supervisor.
That you'll recall, we did not add a head count at dispatch, but we did make one of those dispatch positions a supervisor there.
An ordinance amending Section 2-111C, subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to establish and remove certain positions. Summary, amend Section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances, which sets forth the classifications, associated pay grades, and authorized positions for each department to increase the number of maintenance workers by 4, increase the number of crew leaders in the Public Works Department by 1, change the grade of crew leader from 6 to 8, decrease the number of telecommunicators by 1, and increase the number of shift supervisors by 1. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Introduced and publicly read for the first time June 11th, 2018.
Thank you. That'll be first reading, and we'll do second reading at the next meeting. Finally, on your agenda, under Police Department is a resolution to accept grant funds. Chief, welcome back from Florida. And it's pretty easy to vote to let you seek a $1,000 grant.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion, second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's a little more energetic right there.
That's right.
Get-
Okay.
get-
Now, I'm not going to disclose the over/under bet, but the
You got,
meeting,
you got some time going.
yeah. For council comments, Millie, can we start down at your end of the table?
Have anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's got the longest time? I want to know how long I want to talk.
Come on.
No, I don't have it.
I knew he'd miss.
Nor do I. Thank you.
Andrew, you doing good?
Karen?
Hey, make up for everybody.
All right. Andrew's the buddy to
She's got her book out.
Actually, I don't know what about today, but everybody came in having some questions about something's going on, what's going on in the city. One, where are we with the lease with the Catholic Church? Has it been signed, and are we done with the lease?
Lease has been signed.
The lease is done. We're still working on the escrow, but the lease is done. It's operating. They're paying.
Okay, so it's the escrow that there's questions about, not the lease.
Yeah, the escrow is. It's
Okay.
it's a bank, complicated bank thing.
And that's, we think the legalities of it, Karen, are clear. Just getting the bank to understand how this escrow is supposed to work. But the lease is signed, both I and the bishop have executed it, and they're making the payments.
Okay, great. All right.
You
Then-
can skip number 2.
Number 2 is the traffic committee. Someone came in that they're on Main Street, they're handicapped, and they have a particular problem on, especially Friday and Saturday night, parking in front of their house. And they can't get into their driveway to get in, then into their house because of their handicap problem. But anyway, with the pub, it's really taken up the parking. So what I told her to do was to send a letter to the traffic committee saying what the problem was and asking for you all, and then you all will bring it back to the council.
Actually, tell her to email the city engineer, and
Okay.
he'll bring it.
All right, got it. Contact her. And then I had complaints in Rocky Creek and in Bradford about the one-armed bandit not emptying the trash. When it goes, like if the trash is really compact down into the can.
Not
and
shaking
when
it hard enough.
Pops,
Shake it again.
and you don't pop it out. So that, and then you got the comment
Folks
on,
want to jam that garbage in, those hurt.
Yeah,
Get as much
don't
in
worry
there as
about
they
that
can.
other one.
well, that's exactly right. Uh-huh. And then on Hemingway, the street has, apparently that Hoe Street has, I contacted you about that, but apparently that Hoe Street gets missed from time to time.
Yeah.
And they wanted to bring their garbage to City Hall, and I said, no, let's not do that. So, I told them that you were working on it, but it's like not just the end where the first lady called, it's like the whole street gets it. And they just fly on down it and pass it.
Their garbage gets moved?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got, Karen sent me a text. I've got all the addresses. And
Okay.
So I told her to contact, but she did come out to tell me that you did pick it up today, and thank you very much for picking it up. So, and then the fence in front of the cemetery, I had someone asking about that too.
yeah, good.
Do we have pictures yet?
I don't have pictures yet.
Okay. I told her we were waiting on pictures. We weren't going to
Yes.
approve it without pictures.
Well, we're not going to approve it without pictures, and I had I had two conversations today with Larry Brandstetter, the principal of Brandstetter and Carroll, who is our architect.
Oh, okay.
On that, and I was a little unhappy that we didn't have the drawings, and expressed that today.
Okay.
And I was assured that we are having a meeting. They are coming here on the 20th.
Okay.
And I was assured that I would have images. It was funny. He said, I'll have you images good enough for the newspaper. So on the 25th, I will have images. We've also worked out, because this has taken so long, we've got a pretty aggressive timeline that I want to go ahead and tell you all how we're going to proceed here. We're meeting with Brandstetter and Carroll on the 20th. We're going to look through the options, timelines, and projections then. On the 20th, we are going to email you all of this information so you can have it to review prior to the meeting. At 6:25, at our 6:25 council meeting, we should be able to discuss it and what all the options are and which choices we like best.
Get approval.
We would like to begin an invitation to bid documents on 6/26, advertise for construction on 6/30 or 7/3, bid opening on 7/17. If you all can approve the contract on 7/23, we can give a notice to proceed on July 24th.
Okay. All right.
Great
So
timeline.
we'd like, it's taken so long,
Mm-hmm.
but once we have these drawings, I think we're set to move pretty quickly.
And if the council doesn't approve of the drawings, then when they start back.
Then we'll start back.
Start all over again.
And that's why I told her the council was going to approve the drawings before it would be done.
The principal of the company understands very well that this is a historic cemetery on an important entrance to Georgetown. It's not acceptable the way it is now, and that this needs to be a really beautiful, elegant solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I expect to see on the 20th.
Okay. All right, excellent.
I meant to bring that up in mayor's comments and forgot. Thank
Well,
you.
good, and my last person that came in today was, well, it was a problem which I left it with Andrew. I didn't think for yet it should be here, so I left it with Andrew to talk to you about it and figure out what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mayor, can I add on to what Karen was just talking about? Some of the projects that I've been involved with, the architects would actually send us maybe 3 to 5 different renderings on a PDF format. They just email them to you, for example. And then you can kind of scroll in and look at the kind of look at it really close up and then zoom back out. I would ask them to do that instead of sending it to you in paper. I'm sure they've got that ability. I think it'd be helpful to everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely. In the grand scheme of things, it's a really simple project.
Yeah.
What they spent most of their time doing was engineering work to make sure that the plan was feasible, and now that they've determined that it is, the easy part is getting, here's what this particular fence material looks like, and here's what the top looks like, and here's how we can build your pillars out of stone, or you can build it out of brick, or just all the different options.
Do you know Larry? I figured you might have met him in
I don't believe I do.
local circles. Larry indicated that, he said, look, what happened here is my project manager on this project is an engineer. And he approached it like an engineer. An engineer gets elevations, and they get data, and they get all the engineering stuff, and they do it first. And then they figure out what it might look like. And I said, Larry, I've got to have that I've got a council, it's got to see images. And he said, that was my bad. He said, my project manager brought an engineering approach to something that needed
Visual.
pictures and
Artistic.
images and artistic
Yeah.
to satisfy the council's want. So we're finally on the same page. I trust on the 20th, I'm going to be very pleased with their work.
Of course, the engineering is the most important part of it, because it can be pretty if it falls over in
Falls
a
over,
year.
no.
We now know the engineering's done.
Okay.
We're just ready to see what it's going to look like.
Okay.
And you have already budgeted for what we think the cost is going to be.
All right, I am done. That's everybody that came in today.
Thank you. Connie?
Where me at? I just wanted to ask about where we are about the signs in Payne's Crossing.
Last conversation we had, Eddie and I actually talked about that last week. And we are gonna get in touch with them, and what we've got to do is get a full count and then talk to a company that makes these. We've so far not been successful with that. But we will double down on that. We've got the issue now in 2 other neighborhoods coming up. So another thing we're working on is a policy for ongoing maintenance.
Okay.
And we'll model off Lexington's policy, which basically says, normally we'd come in and we'd put in a plain old metal pole with a green sign and a red stop sign, and here's how much that would cost. But maintaining anything above and beyond that, since that was their choice to put in non-standard, should be the HOA's responsibility. We're working on an agreement that basically says, unless you want something other than the standard green sign and red stop sign, this is what you'll agree to, and here's how the responsibility will play out. That's typically what cities do,
Okay,
but we've got to get that in place.
all right. I can report back. Thanks.
It's one of those things that's still on our to-do list, and it's a pretty complicated.
Yeah, and I'll let them know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Chuck?
A couple things. Clayton Avenue, somebody did some work. I'm not sure who did the work, but they tore the street up really bad. And they just put gravel down on top of it, and it's not very.
How long's it been torn out, Chuck?
You know, that's where the water pipe.
Well, that's when they.
Where the water pipe. That was a really,
Yeah,
I think
bad,
yeah.
bad first.
well, that was, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I've noticed down at the bottom of the hill, it's still a mess down there. That was a big time break. That was a 12-inch main.
I'm just wondering why they didn't put the metal plates down over the.
I don't know.
It's just gravel on the road, and it's all eaten away, and it's a mess there right now.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a water company or their contractor, but it sure is a mess.
Plans on when they're gonna repair it?
Contact with them.
Yeah.
We'll be glad to get in touch with them. And
It's temporary until they get, probably have to order.
I'm not exactly sure where they are on the repair truck. I know that when they get to the point of fixing the street, they'll actually pour concrete below the blacktop repair. So they're not, if it's still gravel, it's not close to a final surface.
Not much gravel, really, honestly. It's rough right now. I got
Okay.
to go this afternoon.
I'll drive over, I'll go look going home.
They got a cone in the center of the road that should tell you to slow down. The traffic cone. I'm serious, right dead center of the road.
All right.
But they could have put the metal plates down
Yes, they could.
and made it a lot easier to travel on. The other thing was, and I may have missed this, but we were supposed to be putting in a right in, right out in front of Walmart on the cherry blossom. Whatever happened with that?
We were working on it, and there's a lot of interest on it, but I think there's, we even did some work on it. There was a study commissioned on it, and I don't think Walmart.
A lot of it sits in this guy's lap right now. It's just one more
I thought
thing.
we voted to put money towards it, and we had an agreement, and it was gonna be done.
So the next step in that will be to get Walmart to say, this is your property. And that involves conversations with corporate, and sometimes conversations with corporate Walmart don't go fast. But we're working on it.
Okay.
So it's a process, and it's a long process, but
Five-year process.
5-year process. We have made some effort. We made some work towards it, but admittedly, it's been slow.
You think it'd be in everybody's best interest just to sit down and figure out how to do it? But it's a little more difficult.
Okay.
But we have done our part, at least on our financial obligation, as I recall.
And I think the county has also, Walmart corporate's putting so much money in, so. But we've got to get the piece of paper signed.
Why don't you sign it for me, Marvin?
I can sign your name.
Anything else,
All
Jeff?
right, that's it.
Mark?
Wow.
Is there anything else to come before the council? I want you to know
Our
that
clerk wins on the minute.
If y'all heard
Motion to adjourn.
Unless you
Get
wanna-
on that minute.
she said
wanna hold
an
your gavel
hour
for
and
5
20
minutes.
minutes.
There you go.
So,
Good job.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
That's fine.